Good evening, Ghost and Ghouls. This is JT Ripper.
And this is Todd of Thunder.
And you're listening to a killer conversation where we're going to start talking about, the monsters that are actual monsters.
This is going to be our attempt at, I guess you would call it true crime. We're leaving the movie monsters behind for this episode, and
we're going to focus on the actual real monsters of the world.
And this is going to be a very special one because this is going to be on the brand new documentary series that's on Peacock right now on Casey Anthony.
Yeah, Todd got me to watch this because he was highly motivated by this and highly pissed off about it. And I watched it, and I've got some notes, and oh man, if you don't watch this thing and get fucking pissed, hats off to you. I was getting aggravated like the first 5 minutes into this thing.
Oddly enough, this new docu-series is called Casey Anthony, Where the Truth Lies.
Lies is the best part about that.
Yeah.
This bitch wouldn't know the truth if Chuck Norris kicked her right in the fucking snout with the truth.
Yeah, and just in case you're unfamiliar with everything that's surrounding this case, we're going to do like a really quick recap of all the facts and everything that led up to this documentary that just came out.
Yeah, and before we deep dive into this, I just want to state for legal reasons that this is all our opinion.
Yes, this is all our opinion. We are in no way, shape, or form calling her a murderer because she was acquitted of this crime. So we're legally not calling her a murderer. We're simply stating our uneducated opinion because we're not professionals by any means. This is just strictly our opinion and what we feel about this.
Yes, 100%.
So I guess we'll start with how this whole thing kicked off. Before we get into the documentary, I'm just going to go over a little bit of the facts of what this case was about.
Yeah.
Sydney Anthony, her mom, made 3 911 calls. One to report a stolen car, and the last phone call that she made, she told the 911 operator, "We got the car back today, but I haven't seen my daughter or my granddaughter in over a month, and when we got the car back today, it smelled like it was a dead body in the damn car." That's what she said.
Yeah.
So the 911 operator was completely floored by this and said, "Is your daughter there with you?" And she said, "Yeah." And if you listen to the 911 calls, she says, "Here, Casey, they want to talk to you." And you can hear her faintly in the background going, "I don't want to talk to them. I ain't got nothing to say." But I guess Sydney just kind of shoved the phone in her face. And at that point, the 911 operator's like, "Okay, can you fill me in on what's going on, ma'am?" And she goes, "Yeah, for the last 31 days, my daughter has been missing." And the operator pauses for a minute, like anybody would.
You're talking about Casey Anthony's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just put that out there. He's talking about the little girl.
Yeah, her name's Kaylee. And like I said, the 911 operator paused and said, "What do you mean?" And in a very monotone, emotionless voice, she said it again. "My daughter's been missing for 31 days. And she goes on to explain, "I didn't call 911 because I used, quote, other resources to try to get her back. I know who took her. And as a matter of fact, I talked to him this morning. Very briefly, I talked to my daughter this morning." So the police come out. The police get the story. She tells the police that her nanny, I can't even say her first name. Her last name is Gonzalez. Zanaya, I think that's what she said.
I think that's how they pronounce it.
Zanaya.
Yeah.
She nicknamed her Zanny the Nanny. How about that?
Yeah.
She took her and dropped Kaylee off at this nanny's apartment complex. She then went to work. She came back. The doors were locked. Nobody was home. She tried to call. The phone was out of service. And for the last 31 days, she's been looking for her.
Yes. This was the original story when it happened.
Right. And like anybody would, the police are scratching their heads. So they get Casey Anthony to show them where this apartment complex is. So they go up to the apartment complex, and not only do they find out that the apartment is vacant, but they talk to the landlord or whoever owns that property.
Yeah.
And that apartment had actually been vacated for months. Months. And there was nobody by that name of Gonzalez that had ever lived in that apartment building.
Yeah, it was all a fucking lie.
It was all a lie.
Yeah.
And then they catch her in another lie. She said that she works at Universal Studios.
Yes.
So they go to Universal Studios. They said, maybe if you take us to your work, maybe we'll find some clues or whatever. So she takes them to Universal Studios. She walks into the building. She's waving. She's saying hi to all these people. People are waving back and saying hi, but not in a, hey, good to see you. It's like, hey.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah, oh, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, hey, who the fuck are you?
Right. So for about a half an hour, she's walking around this building, and finally she turned down a hallway, and it was a dead end. And finally she just turned around and looked at the detectives and said, okay, I don't work here. And the detectives are like, okay.
Yeah.
So they then pretty much take her into custody, and they're trying to find out what has happened. Where is Kaylee? Kaylee, by the way, is almost 3 years old. She's like 2.5.
Yeah.
She's a baby.
Yeah. This is a small little thing.
And at that point, they have, reason to believe that she knows more than what she is, but she's not talking.
Right.
So they arrest her. She posts bail. While she is posting bail, pretty much the state is building up a case against her because they're doing all these researches, I might add.
Yeah, they're like researching evidence and a case to go against her.
Right. And basically what ends up happening is they find all this evidence. They found a hair in the back of her car that I can't say this word. Microscopically? Help me out here.
Microscopically?
That word, similar to Kaylee's hair that they took from a hairbrush, and it matched up. But the thing about this hair is, it done this thing called root bonding, which means it like bundles up and like forms a dark band, but it only does that when it's attached to a deceased person. It doesn't do that to a live person. Because when you're alive, when you're alive, your hair's alive, and it
right.
But when you're dead, it bundles up.
Okay.
And they found this in the trunk. They also took the family computer, and they found that each member of the family had their own account to get on the computer.
Yeah.
Their own password. And under Casey's password, under her account...
Yeah, her user account for the computer.
Yeah. They found searches online for chloroform, neck breaking, and foolproof suffocation.
Yeah, the date of, actually, she went apparently missing.
Right. And there was also, during these 31 days that this baby is missing, there's pictures that are popping up of Casey partying at bars, going out with people, like living her best life possible. She even got a tattoo.
On her shoulder.
She got a tattoo on her shoulder. It was in a foreign language that transferred to, like, living my best life, something like that.
Yeah.
And she's doing all this, and the prosecution is gathering all this evidence, and they come up with a theory. At this point, though, they don't have a body. Kaylee's remains had not been found up until that point.
Yeah, she was still missing during this time period, and the tattoo said "The Good Life." Actually.
The Good Life.
Yeah, The Good Life. Why the fuck would you get a tattoo saying "The Good Life" when your fucking daughter's missing? Like,
yeah, and
skeptical? Yes.
They brought a case against her, and basically this was the prosecution's theory. The prosecution stated that Casey used chloroform to render Kaylee unconscious before putting duct tape over her nose and her mouth to suffocate her, left her body in the trunk of the car for days, and then disposed of the body.
Right.
Now, during this, they found the remains of Kaylee. And it wasn't even 2 miles from the Anthony home.
Yeah, it was like 15 houses up.
Yeah. It was on the side of the road, kind of in a shallow wooded area.
Yeah.
But all they found was skeletal remains. They found a skull with duct tape attached to it, and the rest of it was wrapped in a Winnie the Pooh blanket.
Yeah.
And this was months. This was like 4 months after the initial call to 911. By the way, I want to state that a lot of people said that it took Casey 31 days to call 911. She never called 911. Her mother, Cindy, called 911. I want to point that out.
Yeah, that seems to be something a lot of people don't point out.
Yeah. And
I don't think she ever was planning on calling 911, period.
No, I don't either.
Honestly.
I don't either. And anyway, this was like 4 or 5 months. So this poor little baby's body had been out in the elements all this time.
Yeah, just rotting away.
Just rotting away. And the fact is that during Florida that time, they had a lot of storms. So a lot of that wooded area was flooded. It was up to, it was up to here with water. So you add the elements of nature plus small animals,
yeah,
nipping away at the flesh or whatever. By the time they found all this, any evidence that was there is now gone.
Right.
So you have this prosecution putting this theory out with no way to prove it.
Right. It's all a theory at this point.
Right.
Because you can't prove it because all the fucking evidence is gone at this point.
Right. Now, on the defense side of it, they said that Kaylee was indeed never missing. In fact, Kaylee died at the home in a accidental drowning in the swimming pool on June 16th. And that George Anthony, the father of Casey, and Casey covered up this tragic accident. And also, this around this time, this is where the defense also tried to explain Casey's behavior during those 31 days as her behavior was result from trauma of not only losing Kaylee, but her father had abused her up until the age of 12. They threw this in there.
Yeah, she made a big emphasis on how she was raped by her father. She was raped by her brother.
Well, actually, in the documentary, she said that she was never raped by her brother. She was
molested.
She said, I think her exact quote was, "He never raped me like my father."
Right.
But
yeah.
He might as well, it was close to it.
Yeah, something about him touching her. And apparently, the night she got pregnant, she was at a party. And she says that she got drugged and possibly raped. She didn't say she did get raped. But she put emphasis on the rape because she woke up with her pants down and her bra undone. And she said that she was sore.
Yeah. And this is going to be a constant theme throughout all of this. Everything that she said is going to come with a question mark.
Huge question mark.
But fast forward to the end of the trial, she was found not guilty. And the charges were first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, and aggravated manslaughter. And she was found not guilty, but she was found guilty on 4 misdemeanor counts of providing false information to law enforcement.
Because she did lie.
Because she did lie, and she admitted that she lied. And I think 10 days after the not guilty verdict came back, they released her and said that the 3 years that she had already spent in prison was punishment enough for the false information.
Right.
So, for the last 10 years, she has been out of the public eye until this documentary that we're about to talk about just came out.
Yep. This good old documentary. I'm sure she didn't do it for the money at all.
Yeah. Before we get started, I did a little research, and I found out something pretty interesting before we get into actually what's in the documentary. I found out that Nancy Grace was approached to interview Casey Anthony. And she turned down the interview. And she has been going on like CNN, Fox News, all the talk show circuits, explaining why she turned down. And apparently, they gave her a list of questions that she couldn't ask. They gave her a list of statements that she couldn't say.
Really?
Right. And she said that all of these questions were hard-hitting questions. These are the questions that the public still want to know.
Right.
And she realized right then and there, the producers of this documentary, they're not interested in hard facts or hard truth. They're interested in throwing Casey softball questions and making her look vulnerable and making her look
like the victim.
Like the victim and less guilty as possible. That's
right.
What this documentary is. That's all this documentary is. It's completely biased to Casey Anthony.
100%.
And after I heard that, I'm not even a big fan of Nancy Grace at all. I don't agree with her on most stuff, but when I heard her say this, I was like, absolutely. If that was me, I wouldn't have talked to her. Like, you're telling me that I can't ask the questions that everybody wants to know, that I have to like walk on eggshells to interview this woman? No, I'm out.
Right.
That's what I would have been like too.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it neither, because you're going to get nothing. You're going to get shit in the end because you're not going to get the questions answered that you want.
Yeah, and so this documentary starts off, and I'll just give you my take of what I thought it was. This documentary starts off with almost like a love story between her and her fucking defense team.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking weird.
It's her saying that her real family doesn't exist to her anymore and that she's adopted her defense team as her
family,
real family now.
Yeah, she actually calls them her surrogate family.
Yeah, her surrogate family. And she revealed that for the last 10 years, she has been working and living with one of the members that worked on her defense team. He's a private investigator. Forgive me, I can't remember his name. But
don't really fucking care to.
Yeah, but she's like kind of his secretary. She takes care of like his files, keeps them all nice and clean.
Yeah, she does all the shit work pretty much that he doesn't want to deal with.
Right. And that's what she's been doing for the past 10, 11 years now. And
well, she doesn't live with him anymore.
Yeah, but
she lived with him the majority of the time. I just want to state that. She's now living with someone, some roommate or something that she did not want to bring to light or put in the limelight because they didn't want this. She didn't want this person to have any negative backlash.
Right.
And she also doesn't want you to know where she lives.
Yeah, she didn't want to disclose where she lives. So the majority of these interviews is at this private investigator's house.
Yeah, where she works.
Or in a car somewhere. But, anyway, as the documentary is going on and on, one word kept popping in my head.
Uh-huh.
And that is narcissist.
Oh, 100% Absolutely.
The word narcissist kept popping into my head. I had a feeling going into this documentary, this was going to be one of these, it's all about me, all about the horrible things that I went through, all about the bad things that has done for me. Why are these people doing this to me? Why did they throw me under the bus? Me. And I was not fucking disappointed with that at all, because that's exactly what it was.
Oh, 100%. It was woe is me, woe is I'm the victim. Victim. Why are you mad at me? I didn't do it. Woe is me.
And that's pretty much the beginning of this documentary. As it goes on, the other constant theme that you will hear in this entire documentary is we have to blame this on somebody. And her father, George, is the one that they are going to throw completely under the bus.
Oh, yeah.
And blame this whole ordeal on. And as we go through this, she is going to state that when she was in prison, all these memories of her father abusing her suddenly came back to her.
Yeah, that's what she said.
It suddenly just popped into her head. Popped into her head that she finally can remember him standing over her and doing bad things and all this other claim, right?
Yeah.
Well, they also interviewed a girl who was her cellmate.
Not necessarily her cellmate, but like right across from her.
Yeah, because I think they had separate cells.
Yeah, in prison, like the unit she's at is restrictive housing unit.
Yeah.
And in in restrictive housing units, it's pretty much isolation. So
To yourself.
It's just you by yourself, nobody else in there. No, you can't see. I mean, it's just dark. And what it is like it was she was in front of her, so they were like pass notes. There's a way you can do it. You can like slide it under your door and everything. So
Right.
that's how they were doing it.
Yeah, she basically says that they saw each other one day, and
After they got out of the restricted housing unit.
right, and they kind of locked eyes, and one of them just said hello, and
Yeah.
they basically struck a friendship up at that point.
Right.
And they then continued writing letters with one another while they're locked up.
Yeah. They became pretty much best friends. The other lady that was locked up still had all of her letters and everything.
Yeah,
Casey Anthony.
she's out of prison, by the way.
Yeah.
She's in this documentary. They don't really go into backstory about why she was in there or whatever.
Which it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but she's out. She looks healthy. She looks...
Yeah, she's being productive.
Yeah.
Everything that you would want, someone to get their life together and be a productive human at the end of the day.
But...
It's what I want for people, too. But the thing that really pissed me off before we, go into this is that this person was going to bat for Casey Anthony and was talking about how all this good stuff about her, and then she's back to Casey Anthony, and she's like, I don't really remember talking to her. I don't really remember what the letter said. Like, this person was just a piece of shit to her.
Yeah.
She just used her.
Well, the thing is that she did read some of what the note says.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stuck out is she's reading the letter, and apparently she's reading a letter that Casey had written back to her. And the thing that stood out, it said, I think that happened to me. And when I heard that, I'm like, okay, this girl must have wrote her a letter and told her about the abuse that she has went through. And after Casey read this letter, she wrote back to her and said, I think I went through that too. And from that point on, all of a sudden, these sexual abuse claims against her father started.
Right.
So I feel like she took this woman's story and made it her own.
That's a pretty good theory. I kind of got that vibe too.
And we've seen this before. A year or so ago with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Amber Heard's personal assistant came out in interviews and said, I used to tell Amber about all the abuse that I suffered when I was married. And when I turned on the television and I saw Amber Heard up there testifying, she was saying my story and
Right.
replacing me with herself. And I think that's exactly what Casey Anthony did while she was in prison. She thought of this, she got the idea because somebody else shared a very dark and intimate part of their history with her. And she took it and used it and went with it.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that. Because I got the exact same vibe. I was like, wow, what a piece of shit. To use somebody else's tragedy as their own leverage. And I really feel like she did this. And it's not right. And I'm kind of curious if... I would like to interview this inmate, or this woman that was with her. And I would like to know if the details she gave match the details that she went through.
Right.
Personally.
And, you know, one thing that was, like, really odd was she said she was, you know, while she was out partying, while her daughter was missing, it was even worse when we found out that the daughter wasn't missing at all. The daughter was actually deceased. So she wasn't out partying when her daughter was missing. She was out partying knowing that her daughter is dead. That's even more vile and more insane to me.
Well, she says in this documentary that her father said, everything's fine, she's okay, don't worry about it.
Right. And this, we're going to fucking call her out on all these contradictions, because this is, I don't know how these people put this documentary together thinking that nobody would be able to pick up on this. And let me make something very clear. If you don't know the details about this case, if you didn't follow it back in the day and you just watched this, you might buy into her bullshit.
It's very likely if you don't know the actual story,
right? You might buy into her bullshit.
This, yeah, it's portrayed in a way for you to believe it.
This documentary is like any other documentary. It's set up for true crime and to tell a story, but it's set up for entertainment. It has the music to put you in the mood of whatever they're talking about.
Yeah.
The camera angles. You know, there's some scenes in this documentary where they're shooting her from the back of the car, but they're only shooting the rear view mirror so you can only see her eyes, and it's real artsy and shit. But, in the documentary, they say that Casey's actions in that 31 days that Kaylee was missing was actually normal for somebody who has went through
a traumatic experience.
That's what they actually said.
I call bullshit. I'm sorry, but if my kid was missing, first of all, I wouldn't wait 31 days. Second of all, I wouldn't be going out fucking partying. Third of all, I wouldn't use the excuse of having fun to forget about my child.
Right.
That's bullshit.
And one of the other odd things is that the private investigator that she lived with for a while, he was on there talking, and he said, he's the one that actually said that her actions was completely normal for somebody that went through trauma. But then he brings up that George and Sydney Anthony had a boat, and on the side of the boat they had it custom made. It was like 1-800-missing children.
Right.
And they would go out on the lake and take this boat and basically go all over the lake promoting this 1-800-missing children. And he had the nerve to say that this was the oddest and weirdest thing that anybody could do. So just to be clear, her actions for those 31 days are completely normal, but putting 1-800-missing kids on the side of your boat is fucking weird. That's when I knew that not only is Casey Anthony a narcissist and lives in her own little bubble, but that every one of her attorneys, every one of her defense teams is from the land of what the fuck.
Yeah.
That's when I knew that this is not about making anything make sense. This is about casting doubt. And unfortunately, we live in a society today where it's so fucked up with all the issues going on with the transgender and the, anti-Semitism, whatever that's called. People that don't like Jewish people. That, and the world is so divided, I'm thinking to myself, this is the perfect time for this documentary to come out. Because these fucking people are sitting here saying the dumbest, stupidest fucking thing, but I'm thinking to myself, it's okay because the society that we live in today is so fucking stupid that there's people out there that are going to go, yeah, this all makes total fucking sense.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of this, I just want to state, we don't really get political, and we just want to state also, we're not left and we're not right.
Yeah, this case has nothing to do with political. I'm just making an example. I feel like the world that we live in is so fucking, it's not black and white anymore. Sense and common sense is not common in today's society.
Yeah, you don't have to be politically correct to know that the day and age we live in is really fucked right now. And it's a shitty time in the world. That's left or right. I think both of them are fucking crazy to a certain extent. That's why I stay in the fucking middle. But to get back on track, I just want to point out something she said that fucking grinded my gears, to quote Peter Griffin. She said that the pain was too painful to tell the truth. That's why she never tells the truth.
Yeah, she said that because she's been abused and because she's learned to go through life like nothing's ever wrong, that's exactly what she did in this situation. Because she kept saying that, we always present it to the public that we were this perfect family, but we won't. We were fucked up behind the scenes.
Which it could possibly be true.
Every family goes through that, but...
I mean, I think her dad was a piece of shit. I just want to state that. He did cheat on his fucking wife. I mean, that was true.
He cheated on his
wife.
But
that had nothing to do with this fucking case, though.
No,
Does that make him a piece of shit? Yes. Does that have anything to do with the fact of the death of this little kid? No. This has nothing to do with anything. This is just throwing fucking things out there like, he's a piece of shit. He must have killed her.
Yeah,
to get the blame off of her.
None of that makes sense. In my opinion, none of it makes sense. It's one of those things where, they even bring up the fact that he tried to commit suicide. And they tried to say that, he was going to commit suicide because he felt guilty for what he did. And he actually had like a 3 or 4 page suicide note. And nothing in that suicide note
was admitting
that he was guilty.
At fault. Yeah, he was at fault for
killing. He literally said that he can't live without his granddaughter. He can't stand the fact that she's not here, and he wants to be with her. That was the basis for the letter.
Right.
And think about this, man. They're throwing him under the bus. They're bringing up all of his fucking ghost in his fucking closet. His granddaughter is missing, or dead at this point. His daughter is on trial for capital murder, facing the death penalty. He's probably not getting a whole lot of love from his wife at the moment because of all these accusations. You can see how all this shit would pile up on a person and how they could be like, you know what, I cannot handle this. And you can kind of sympathize how, they could say, well, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I could only imagine being in that scenario, in that situation, and being in his shoes. I mean, I'd probably try to, unlive myself, so to speak.
Well,
Another point to bring up about her that I made some bullet points, so I'm going off my bullet points here. She said that she has nightmares every night and doesn't sleep well.
right.
My question is why? Why do you not sleep well?
Well, throughout this whole documentary, you can tell she's been coached on what to say and what not to say. She used a lot of what I call therapy language. And what I mean by that is she referred to a lot of her odd behavior as trauma. That is therapy language. That is something that when you go and talk to somebody, I don't know why I'm feeling like this. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know blah, 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 blah. They're going to tell you it's a part of your trauma. And it's therapy language. And she has grasped on to this. So when she's sitting there and she's saying that she's having these nightmares and it's always the same, it always goes back to her father standing over her, going to abuse her, even though she could not remember any of this before she went to jail. I want to point that out. And she actually said in the documentary that she would never let her dad alone with Kaylee because she was scared that he would do the same thing to her that he did to her when she was young. And I'm sitting here thinking, if you couldn't remember any of this until after you went to jail, then what you just said is a fucking huge contradiction, and it's not fucking true. Why would you not want your dad around your daughter because you fear that he's going to molest her the way that he molested you, but you couldn't remember it until you got into jail? These are your words, not mine.
Right. And knowing people personally that have been physically raped and molested, they know they got raped and molested.
Right. Apparently,
they're not like, I kind of remember the experience and I kind of don't. No, they remember every fucking second of it.
Right. Apparently, she has been abused by her father. She has been abused by her brother. And she has been abused at a party, supposedly resulting in her getting pregnant with Kaylee. But she isn't sure of any of it.
Right. This is all her words, not ours.
Right. And another contradiction is she said in the documentary that she is a light sleeper. She will wake up at the drop of a dime, and again, it goes back to that bedroom door opening up and praying to God it's not her father. That's what made her a light sleeper. However, on the morning that Kaylee disappears, she doesn't hear her daughter get up from the bed. She doesn't hear the door open. She doesn't hear anything. She's woken up by her father shaking her saying, "Where's Kaylee?" So which one is it? Are you a regular to heavy sleeper? Or are you a fucking light sleeper like you just said?
I think she's a fucking lie.
Exactly. It's a contradiction.
Yeah.
Every fucking thing that she says, it just contradicts everything before.
Right.
And it's because she has developed this story in her head and she can't fucking get it right.
No, she's lied so much that it's hard for her to keep up with her lies. And I want to point out something that I thought was funny also in the documentary. That she blames that her dad was a piece of shit. Hence why she is a piece of shit.
Yeah, being a piece of shit is not hereditary.
Well, she blamed her father for her being a liar and a narcissist and a bad person.
Right.
Because he was a piece of shit, so that's why she was a piece of shit. I'm sorry, but you are your own person. You choose your own path. You pick your own destiny.
Right.
Because your parent is a piece of shit doesn't mean you have to be a piece of shit. And this personally fucking offended me. I grew up not so great, honestly. My mom was pretty much a single mom. My dad was an alcoholic drug addict, very abusive. By the way, Casey, I fucking remember this vividly as a kid. And he was in and out of prison. So it was up to my fucking mother and my grandpa to help fucking raise me, right? I could have been a lying piece of drug addict, piece of shit. But I'm not. I have my shit together. I'm a pretty decent fucking person. I chose not to go down that path. I could sit there and blame my father and everybody else who fucking kicked me and put me down, but I don't. I lace up my fucking boots and I go to work and I be the best fucking person I can be and try to be the best friend I can to my friends.
Yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to point out. She wasn't too nice to her friends.
No, she was a lying piece of shit to her friends.
She stole one of her friend's checkbooks while that friend was out of town, and she drained her fucking bank account.
Right.
She drained her bank account, and there's actually footage of her when she's in prison and her mother and father is coming to visit, and she speaks about this. She was like, I was just in a desperate mode. And I'm thinking, what desperate mode are you in? You live at home with your fucking parents.
Right. Like, she's just fucking lying yet again.
Right.
But then she turns around and blames her father in that situation that, oh, he was a piece of shit, so that's why I did that. I was just fucked up.
Yeah,
and I did a fucking stupid thing, and I'm in a shitty situation.
She says that now, but everything beforehand contradicts everything what she's saying. Which,
right.
She's on the phone talking to her mom and dad behind this glass when she's in prison.
Right.
And her father is, baby, we just want you to be home. We just want you to come home. We love you. We miss you. And the whole time she's talking to her father, she's going, Daddy, I miss you too. I want to come home. Don't you dare blame yourself. Because there was a point where he said, I wish I could have been a better father. I wish I could have been a better grandfather. And she said, don't you ever say that. You and Mom have been the best. Without you, me or Kaylee wouldn't have the life that we have. Or, first of all, she said, had. Then she corrected herself and said, have.
Right.
And she kept saying, in my gut, I just know that she's still alive. I know that she's still alive. I know that she's still alive. And this leads to the big reveal of what this documentary is supposed to be about, which is, from her own mouth, what really happened that day. Right?
Right.
And first of all, she said that Jose Baez, her lawyer, the story that they came up with was completely wrong. The story that got her off of capital murder charges was wrong. Because,
yep,
Casey says that Kaylee, there's no way that it was an accident. There's no way she died in our family pool. Because the pool was an above ground pool. It was one of those high setting pools.
Yep.
And you needed
a ladder
to get into it, and there's no way that Kaylee could have got to it because there was no ladder to it. I guess the ladder was in the garage, and they keep it in there until somebody wants to go out there and use it for this very reason, the child could use it and drown.
Right.
And she totally rejects her own defense team's defense. And she
Right.
says, this is what really happened. She said she woke up that morning. She fixed Kaylee breakfast, and she wasn't feeling too well. So after she fixed her breakfast, they went back to her room, and she turned on the television, she closed the door, and she fell asleep. And she said a few hours later, she was woken up by George shaking her, going, "Where's Kaylee?" So she immediately popped up out of bed. She checked the room, wasn't there. Checked Kaylee's room, wasn't there. Checked the entire house, wasn't there. Went out back to her little playhouse, wasn't there. And then she said she comes around the side of the house. And that's where George has Kaylee in his arms and hands Kaylee to Casey and says, "Look what you've done. How could you have done this? Your mother's never going to forgive you, blah, 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 blah." And she said that Kaylee was cold and she was wet and she just dropped to her knees and she didn't know what to do. And then she says that George immediately softens his voice and says, "Give her to me. I'll take care of her. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." And now he goes through the sliding glass windows or the sliding glass doors into the house. Kaylee is in his arms.
Right.
Casey, at this point, says she just got in her car and went to her boyfriend's house and didn't go back to her house for a fucking month.
Yep.
Now, let me go back to what I said earlier when she said, "I would never leave my child alone with my father in fear that he would do the same to her as he did to me."
Yep.
She said that.
Yes, she did.
But now she's fine with giving her supposed unconscious daughter's body to the same man that she feared this from for 31 fucking days.
Bullshit.
Absolute
Total
bullshit.
Bullshit. I'm a pretty good bullshitter, but goddamn.
Yeah, there are people that are full of shit, and then there's people that are what you call stunningly full of shit.
Oh yeah, she's a fucking stunning Steve Austin of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus Christ. And I'm sitting here listening to it, and they ask her, "Well, what's your theory about what happened? Like, what's your theory? What happened?" And she says, "I don't know." But as the documentary goes on, you can hear the interviewer kind of feeding her shit.
Yeah.
And she's kind of going, "Oh, possibly. Oh, it very well could have been. Oh, yeah. So basically what the narrative is trying to say is, when Casey was young and George would abuse her, he would put a pillow over her face to where she couldn't scream, and she would suffocate to the point where she would pass out. And they're saying that's what George tried to do to Kaylee, but accidentally smothered her. And then, when he found out that he accidentally killed her, he took her and threw her in the swimming pool, then picked her back up to where she was wet, to where it looked like she drowned in the swimming pool. This is what they're trying to say really happened.
Yes, that was the narrative that they was getting at.
And I don't buy it for a goddamn second.
I don't neither.
I don't think that George was even home that day. I think that he was away at work. Now, Casey tries to say that, oh, well, he only worked about 10 minutes away from
The house.
the house because it's proof that he was at work. But she says, oh, he only works 10 minutes away. He had plenty of time to come back to the house, do this deed, and then go back out.
Yes.
Are you fucking kidding me?
She also originally said that she wasn't at the house during this time period, but that changed because they pulled her phone records.
Yeah. And she tried to explain that off as, no, that was my father using my phone.
Yeah. Horseshit.
Yeah.
Horseshit. I don't believe that for one goddamn moment.
And she also says that her father, you know, she kept saying in the documentary, I wasn't the only one home. I wasn't the only one home. Why do they keep, you know, blaming me? She almost gets angry that people want answers from her. She had this look on her face like, oh, I'm the only one that's supposed to have the answers? Well, goddammit, I wasn't the only one home. You're her fucking mother. You're supposed to have these fucking answers. If all this went down the way you said it is, why didn't you call fucking 911? Why did you stay away for a month partying, getting drunk, getting fucked by Steve and Bob and everybody else under the fucking sun, getting tattoos, living your best life, and all this shit's happening?
Right.
Like, no.
That's
I don't give a
not...
fuck. I don't give a fuck how much trauma that you went through. Nobody in the history of trauma has acted like that unless they have severe mental problems. Like obvious mental problems.
Right. No mother would ever act like that. Out of everybody that I know, and all the mothers out there, I'm not going to say 99, I'm 100% positive that if your kid went missing, you would immediately freak out and call 911.
Yeah.
You would not fucking hesitate. I would not fucking hesitate. I know you wouldn't hesitate if Zach went fucking missing.
No.
You would be on that like fucking flies on fresh shit.
Yeah, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to find out what happened to my child. And the fact that, you know, she should have been charged. Not only for lying to law enforcement, but there should have been a charge of negligence at least.
Yeah, negligence was definitely there because you admit
the jury rejected it.
I don't understand why. Well, now she's saying this in the documentary, but then it was a different story.
Right. She didn't even tell her defense team this final story that she told us. She told them about the supposed abuse when she, quote unquote, remembered it. But
Right.
But this final story at the end of this documentary that she just said, none of her defense team heard the story.
No.
None of them did. So this was the big reveal in this documentary about what really happened. Wink, wink.
Hint, hint. And she actually makes her father out to be a pedophile in this movie.
Yeah, there's one of the most strangest things about this documentary is she wants to see the film footage of her daughter's funeral service because she wasn't allowed to go because she was in prison.
Right.
You mean to tell me that you've been out of prison for 10, 11 fucking years and you haven't seen your daughter's memorial service until right here, right now?
In front of cameras?
In front of the cameras?
What? No.
And obviously they don't show the whole thing. They show when George Anthony is up there talking about Kaylee.
Yeah, they make it look cringy as fuck.
They make it look cringy when he says, I'll never be able to hug her anymore. I'll never be able to put my hand through her hair. I'll never be able
to smell her sweat.
Yeah, he says let me put this in context, though. He says, I'll never be able to smell her sweet sweat from coming outside into the house. Obviously, he's talking about when she goes outside in the summer Florida fucking heat and she's sweating and she comes back in the house. That's what he's referring to. But of course, they take this and they twist it around as, oh my God, he's admitting to being a fucking pedophile. He's admitting to being this monster. And that's the narrative that they go with. And Casey Anthony has the nerve to sit there and go, why is he saying this? This is not normal. And I'm thinking, nothing about you at all is fucking normal, but that just triggered you to say that. That's telling. That goes back to what I said earlier about her defense team saying that her behavior during those 31 days is okay, but the boat that the parents did was fucking weird. That goes back to that thinking. They thought like that. She thinks like that. Okay? Completely insensible. Like, doesn't make sense whatsoever that you can point out that something is not normal and not recognize your own fucking behavior as being not normal.
Yeah, I definitely thought, it definitely made me feel like he was a pedophile when I watched it. Like
it's supposed to.
I know, I'm saying. Like, it makes you go, wow.
Yeah, the music is right there to set the
drama,
mood.
like, yeah.
It's shot
but
that way.
The thing I want to point out that I call bullshit on is that she has saw this memorial service before. And I think this whole thing was set up. Like, I think that she knew where she wanted to go with this documentary.
Do you remember what she said before they showed it? She said, I've never seen it, but I heard what he said online. Somebody told me what he said online.
Right, and I call bullshit. I think this whole thing was a setup to make her look good. I think she has seen this fucking memorial service before.
Yeah.
And they pinpointed where and what to focus on.
A narrative.
And right there is where they focused on. Because they didn't focus on any of the rest of the memorial service, what anybody else said, just what the father said in that one moment.
Yeah, you don't even see anything else but him talk.
Yeah.
For about 30 seconds.
Yeah, you see
her reaction.
Yeah, you see a couple seconds of the memorial service. You see some cringy ass Christian guy singing Jesus this, Jesus that, whatever. And she makes a statement also that why did they make such a big deal in this memorial service? Because they wanted it to be about them and not about her.
Yeah, I told my mom I just wanted a simple service. I didn't want all this attention.
Right. I call bullshit.
Right. And
if she was out of prison, I guarantee you, she would have been there, woe is me, crying at the memorial service.
Yeah, and one of the things, in conclusion to all this, we're going to kind of wrap it up a little bit, but just some things that I want to point out. She never says Kaylee's name until the end of the documentary. She always refers to her as she or her or my daughter. She does what I like to say using distance words. She never says her name. It's never personal. And when she does talk about Kaylee, she talks about her for a few seconds, and it always ends with poor, poor, pitiful me at the end of every fucking conversation.
Right.
She does this throughout the entire thing. This was definitely...
It's not about the daughter. It's about her.
Yeah, it's about her. It's me, myself, and I, and why did I go through this?
Yeah.
Not why is my daughter dead. Why did I have to go through this? And that's something that will always stick out to me about this documentary. And, there's some other things that I wanted to point out. While I'm thinking of it, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this documentary is unnecessary. She's trying to clear her name while pointing the blame at her father. And this documentary does a damn good job of making him look like the victim. About her father wanting her to, be put on death row and killed. I didn't know that until this documentary. But I'll be honest with you, if I personally had a daughter that killed my granddaughter, I would want that bitch's head on a fucking silver platter. I would want to flip the switch or inject the bitch personally myself if I knew she killed my granddaughter. She would not be my fucking daughter anymore. That's personally how I feel. That's my personal take on it.
Yeah. Like I said at the very beginning, the whole narrative was to throw him under the bus. And that's exactly what they did. There was a lot of statements that Casey made in this documentary where any other person that is a truth seeker would have follow-up questions with. But there was none of this in here. It was a blank statement, and they moved on. It was not, and this goes back to what I said earlier about Nancy Grace turning down the interview, because somebody like her, even though I don't particularly care for her, she would have said, well, wait a minute, what do you mean by this? She would have pressured her into explaining herself about some of this shit.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in this interview. They let her say her piece and move on.
There's a scene in it where the interviewer says, "Good morning, how did you sleep last night?" And she goes, "There's no such thing as good sleep. I don't sleep good." And that's when she goes into the nightmares and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not a normal response. A normal person goes, I slept okay. And then the response would be, "Oh yeah, what happened?" And then the other person would go, "Well, I've been having these nightmares, blah, blah, blah." That's how that conversation would go. Nobody starts that off by going, "There's no such thing as good sleep."
Yeah.
Like, statements like that is just, it's uncomfortable, and it's something not normal, and it's something that was either preached to her or prepped to her to say, But what these documentaries people and what her defense team don't recognize is that every time that she tries to use these unique words, such as, the therapy, trauma, it's not bad things that happen to me like normal person would describe a bad thing happen to them.
Yeah.
Every bad thing that happened to her is completely trauma, because that's the word she's been programmed to use for it.
Yeah, she does preach that a lot.
And what they don't realize is that the more and more she uses these words, the less and less she looks authentic.
Oh yeah, she definitely looks like a robot that is been told or programmed what to say.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And another thing in this documentary, there is a lot of what they call facial hygiene. When people is constantly moving their hair back, they're constantly doing stuff to their face, they're constantly worried about how they're looking right now.
Yes.
She does this throughout the entire thing. She's constantly,
fixing her hair,
she's constantly checking herself and
adjusting her clothes,
making sure that she looks the absolute best that she can, even if she's talking about a so-called traumatic experience. And
looking away.
Yeah, looking away, looking down. She bites the inside of her mouth a whole lot. She has those squinty eyes when she's angry. When she tells you something and you kind of come at her with, I don't know about that, she gets defensive. She's, how dare you fucking don't believe me? You know? And then there's scenes where she's in the car and she's looking in the rearview mirror because they're in the back seat.
Yeah.
And she's doing this in a way where she's saying these statements and looking back and looking for their reactions, almost like to go, you do believe me, right?
Right.
Right? Did I sound good? Does that sound good? Do you believe me? Oh, do I need to say it a different way? You know, and one thing, this is kind of what I'm going to end it on for me. Throughout the entire trial, Casey Anthony always looked like she was about to cry or looked like she had been crying. She never shedded a tear. She never busted out crying at all, even when they showed the remains of her own daughter. The only time that she bust out crying and could not control it is when they came back with the not guilty verdict. So, when I say that she's a narcissist, she literally only cried throughout this entire trial for herself. And that's what I'm going to end it on.
That's very true. And even in this new documentary, the only time she actually cries, if you notice, is when it portrays to her.
Yeah.
Like when she's talking about her being molested or raped or anything bad happening to her, that's when she starts crying.
You ever notice that she kept wiping her eyes, but there was nothing to wipe?
Yes. Yes, I did.
She kept sniffing and using a tissue with nothing on the tissue, nothing to wipe.
Right. I think.
Did you notice
I think when there is a situation where she's looking at pictures of her and she starts crying, but then she says, "I can't look at them anymore because it hurts too much." I sincerely believe, in my honest opinion, that she's crying because she's guilty. And she feels guilt for killing her daughter, and that's why she cannot look at pictures of her daughter. That's my personal opinion.
My personal opinion is she doesn't feel guilty at all. She wants you to think that she feels guilty. But I don't think she feels guilty at all. I think all of this is made up. I think all of it is it's a zebra does not change its stripes, and I don't think that Casey Anthony will ever be any different than what you've seen her. It's been 10, 11 years, and she's still the same narcissist, incoherent liar that she's always been.
And that's all she will be. And that's a reason why nobody wants to deal with her, and she's probably going to die alone.
Before we go, I want to bring up one thing. There was a video a couple of years ago that came out where Casey Anthony was at a bar. And this is pretty funny because she starts off the documentary saying that she has social anxiety. She can't for the last 10 years she hasn't went out with anybody. She can't do it. She has social anxiety.
Yeah, she did say that. I forgot about that.
But there's a video online with her literally at a bar with a bunch of people having drinks and living her best life. And apparently she got into a conflict with another woman, and this other woman threw a drink on her. And she called the cops on the girl and tried to get her for assault. You know, she's like, my dress is still damp, look at it, blah, 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 right? And,
Right.
of course, everybody online said exactly what most people were thinking. You were quick to call the cops for somebody throwing a drink on you than you were when your daughter died.
Yeah, when your daughter went missing, you didn't call the cops, but somebody
Yeah.
throws a fucking drink on you,
So
and it's the end of the goddamn world.
yeah, everything that I'm mentioning is just classic signs of narcissism. So that is my narrative of this whole fucking thing. That's what I thought going in. That's what I was proven right. And by the time the documentary was ended, I felt like I had just watched the ultimate fucking documentary on narcissism.
Yes, 100%. I just want to state, in my opinion, that I think that it was a possibility that she either overdosed her child or she killed her in some way, shape, or fashion. And I have, this is my theory, that her father helped her because he didn't want her to go to prison. And if you didn't know, when you watch the documentary, I don't know if anybody else knows that he is a former cop.
Yeah.
Detective. He would know the ins and outs and what to do. And I believe that he took care of this situation for her. This is just my theory. After watching this and then looking at several other things, that's my theory of this.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll give my theory to it. I feel like you hit the nail right on the head when you said she probably gave her something to knock her out. Probably gave her too much. Didn't realize. I don't think that she did this on purpose. As much as I do not like this woman, I don't think she did it on purpose. But I do think that she gave her something to help her sleep. And she gave her too much, and she panicked. And I don't think her father helped her at all.
Okay.
I don't think that because of, he is a former cop. He would have known not to disregard this body 2 miles away from your own fucking house.
It's a good point. I didn't think about
would've-
that.
He would have taken this body somewhere in the Florida fucking Everglades, and a crocodile would have ate that body or something, you know.
It's never been found.
It wouldn't have never
Yeah.
been found. It wouldn't have been found 2 miles, or 13 houses down from the house. That's
well,
insane.
brother, you know, when you say it like that, I kind of got to reevaluate my opinion on it.
Yeah, because it was said in the documentary that when pets would die, George Anthony would wrap them in a blanket and put duct tape around them and bury them. Well, Kaylee was found wrapped up and duct taped. I don't think that George did it. I think Casey remembered her father doing this. And that's what she did. And I think consciously, she thought back. She was like, oh my God, I'm going to tell them that that's what my father used to do to these animals. So just another way to put suspicions on him. Because they would have came to him and said, Mr. Anthony, when pets of yours would die, what was your process? And he would have said that, and then they would have been like, well, guess what we found? Kaylee was wrapped the same way.
That's a good point.
You know? I don't think...
Maybe she's stupid like a fox.
What I think happened is, I think she accidentally overdosed. She couldn't wake her up. She was scared about what people were going to say. She was scared about her getting in trouble. So what she did is she wrapped Kaylee's body up, put it in the trunk, went to her boyfriend's house, partied, act normal, the whole 9 yards, and one night she probably came back to the house at some point, and she probably noticed 4 or 5 days this body's been in my trunk and it's starting to smell. So before she got home, she probably done that, but she probably thought that the smell was so bad she can't just go home about it. My dad is a former cop. He knows what dead bodies smell like.
Right.
So I am going to go and I'm going to run this car out of gas. And that's what she did. She parked it at like an automotive store, and that's where it was found, out of gas. She literally ran this car out of gas. And when people found it, that was the exact smell that they smelled. People that have experienced what dead bodies smell like, it's an unforgettable smell, they say. It's not, you can't mistake it with roadkill. You can't mistake it with trash, old pizza boxes, whatever. It's a distinctive smell. And she tried to say, well, it was garbage left in the trunk of my car. That's why it smells this bad. No. Everything she did not because she's smart, but because she wants it all to go away. And the fucked up thing is, we live in a society where all this stuff that she does makes her look guilty. All this stuff that she did that doesn't make sense. All this stuff that should be an open and shut case, pretty much. And she was found not guilty. God bless America.
After what you just said, I kind of have to fucking agree with you on that. I mean, I guess I really didn't break it down and look at it quite like that. And hell, honestly, the documentary probably swayed my thoughts into thinking, he had something to do with it. And after you pointed that out, I have to fucking agree with you on it.
Don't get me wrong.
That's a very good point.
This documentary is very well put together. If you don't know, professionally put together, it's a good documentary put together.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you don't know the narrative, it might influence you into exactly what they bought in. Like you're going to buy into what they're selling you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm so glad I got this fucking off my chest and talked about it, man.
Yeah,
we're not going to do this often.
No, but I think we're going to start talking maybe more about some serial killers and stuff like that a little bit here and there. You know?
Every once in a blue moon.
Every once in a blue moon. But I want to leave this on a little bit of a positive note. To anybody listening, anybody out there, I want you to be the best person you can be. Be honest, loving, and take every day and enjoy it like it's your last. Love and cherish your friends and your family, and your friends are just as much as family as it is for me. I love my friends to death. They are my family. And I would like for you to just take a moment and text somebody you know, tell them you love them. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Because you're not promised tomorrow.
Absolutely. That's a big old ditto from me, man. You can't say it much better than that. And, like I said, we're going to... We'll talk more about serial killers and stuff like that every once in a blue moon when we get a hair up our ass or whatever.
Yeah.
But, next time it'll probably be our usual goofy fucking selves talking about movie monsters,
Yeah, and all the fun stuff.
and all the fun stuff. And, this has been, pretty therapeutic.
Yeah, for the both of us.
Yeah, because, one thing that I've always been afraid of, doing these podcasts is that, I never wanted to talk about stuff like this because I never really think that I'm too articulate to talk about stuff like this. I don't know the correct
Yeah.
terminology. I'm a simple dude. You know what I mean?
We're both simple dudes.
Yeah, we didn't want to come off sounding like a bunch of
Yeah, cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Yeah, but I felt pretty confident in
Talking about
this case. And,
Yeah,
and,
me too. But
I hope that anybody that's listening to us, please tell us how we did on this, how we handled it,
if you liked it, if you want to hear more, let us know.
Yeah, that the more you let us know, the more we'll know, what kind of content to do. I mean, of course, you want to hear about the horror movies, cool, but every once in a while you want to have something different, and we're not against giving that to you. So that's what we try to do today.
Yep. Well, we appreciate y'all listening. I'm JT Ripper.
And I'm Todd of Thunder saying toodaloo.
And hug someone, love them, let them know that they mean something to you.